Hello everyone, welcome back to Eva's courseware evaluation. And this is my last episode for call, which is Quora for call. Quora as a potential tool for computer-assisted language learning. So in this video, I'm going to introduce Quora and run you through its basics and recommend some possible ways to use it in your language classroom. If you haven't checked my previous two episodes, Reddit for call and Urban Dictionary for call, you can locate these videos in the video description section. All right, let's get started. So what is Quora? Quora, according to Google, is an American question and answer website, which means it's a place where people ask questions and provide answers, and where questions are asked, of course, answered, of course, and followed. Indeed, you can choose to follow certain questions. In that case, whenever new answers appeared for that question, you will be notified so that you can follow the latest responses to that question. And edited, which means if you provide any answers to any questions, you can always go back to your answer and edit it. If you ask a question, you can edit that question too. And by whom? By internet users. So that means basically everyone, as long as you can have access to the internet and register an account with them. So that's Quora, and it's very much accessible. It's a website. That means you can access it from PC or Mac, and it's also available on Android and iOS. I believe so. You can find its app on your phone. So it's very much accessible. And to remember its name, here is a possible explanation for the spelling Quora, which means questions or answers. I'm not sure if the official Quora team said yes to such an explanation, but I do find such an explanation helpful for me to remember the name Quora. Now let's do a quick demo of Quora. I would say it's sort of easy to use, it's easy to navigate around, and Quora literacy is not hard to develop compared with Reddit, which is sort of more multimodal and complicated. So I'll skip the part of registration and get straight to the point when you already have a registered account. So the UI is not complicated. Here we have what they call spaces. Let's say a space on Quora is basically something like a forum and sort of like a topic where the space will gather and collect all questions related to that topic. For example, if you look at writing, it will bring you to a bunch of questions related to writing. Oh, by the way, we do have promoted things here, so be critical of this content too. It's annoying and not interesting. All right, so yeah, so that's space. Basically, it's like a topic, and we will come back to it later because we will talk about space like writing and English language learning. And here at the top is what's your question or link. So this is the place where you can ask a question. So you can ask sort of any questions, and you can choose if you want the questions to be public and so that people can see who you are, who is the one to raise a question, or you can choose to remain anonymous, which means people won't know who raises questions, or you can choose limited. So say if you have millions of followers, if you choose this option, people will still be able to see who raises question, but your question won't appear in your followers timeline. They call it followers feeds. Right. So this is the feeds part, which I personally call it timeline. It includes contents like share from space you might like. So this is what the system recommend to you based on the algorithm. This question is indeed very interesting. How do I legally disappear and never be found? Okay, so that's an interesting one. And we do have promoted content, like I mentioned earlier. And also we have answer recommended too, recommended for me. And I don't think I have followed many people. And also the feed also recommend questions for you. Why do some think China is so disgusting? I don't care. Yeah, so basically, the more you use Quora, the more the system will try to figure out what you are interested in and recommend more relevant content to you. And here, it's more like a mission section where the system guide you to fully interact with other people on Quora. So once you complete a task, it will cross it out. So I would say it's sort of motivate people to use Quora more. And okay, so here is recommended spaces. And this part is sort of relevant to what I'm going to talk next, because Quora seems to recognize that English is not my first language, so it recommend spaces like skilled English writing, online English learning, language, and of course, coronavirus is a trending topic, personal growth, blah, blah, blah. So it's easy to use. And now let's try to get into a question and see how we can navigate around it. So this is what it looks like when you entered a question, a specific question. So this is the question itself. And here we can see there are so many people following this question, which means these people will receive a notice when you provide a new answer. And please ignore the ad. See, we have to be critical of what's presented. And here you can see a bunch of questions that are related to this question, so that you may go to these questions if you don't find what you're looking for in this specific questions. And then we can see there are 114 answers, which are, I think the order of these questions, again, depends on the number of upvotes and downvotes. So this is sort of similar to Reddit, where you can upvote an answer that you love and downvote a question that you disagree with. And you can also comment on certain questions, certain answers. If you want to provide an answer, just click answer. And here you'll be able to write down your own answers here. So as I mentioned before, Quora is text heavy. So it's not too multimodal, but it does allow you to insert images or add links here. And even though here we only have the very basic editing function, like put words in bold or italic or give them bullet points, here we have an extension part where you can add someone, that means mention certain users or quote content or add brackets or formulas. I'm not familiar with that, so I'll just leave that part for you to explore by yourself. And if you want to be updated of what's going on under this question, just click follow so that this question will appear again in your feed when there's a new answer. If you don't like this question, you can even downvote it. The questions who receives a lot of downvotes will become less popular and won't be promoted to other users. Now, to envision a possible use of Quora in my classroom, well, I haven't used it before. But if I were to use it in an EFL university level running classroom, I would invite students to locate a question related to English language learning. We have a bunch of questions on Quora like that. and then invite students to critically examine the question and the answers, and cast votes to the question to answers. And eventually, I want to guide them to compose their own answers to the question and interact with other participants under the same question. For example, they can reply to other people's answers, comment on the questions, or cast votes, of course. And when they compose an answer, I would ask them to wait and see if people would agree with them, if people would upvote or downvote their answers, if people would comment on their answers, say something like, "Oh, I really love your answer," or "Oh, I strongly disagree with your answer," or even initiate a debate. So let's look at a concrete example. What's the best way to learn English vocabulary? So I will ask my students to locate questions like this, and then ask them to skim through the answers critically, and then discuss if they believe what the answers say makes sense or not. And then I'll invite them to think about what has been covered, what is not covered, and what they may contribute as an English language learner. So they will try to compose their own answers and add to the conversation. I don't want them to just repeat what has been said, but to skim through all the answers before they compose their own answers. Now, pros and cons for language learning. Pros. First of all, Quora literacy is relatively easy to master for both the teachers and the students. And I would say opportunities to read and write English in authentic contexts for authentic purposes would be useful. And also, it provides them relevant contexts, just like the example I just used, discussing how to learn English that's relevant to them. And it's sort of like a meta conversation on language learning, and that would boost learner agency. And of course, they have authentic audiences, authentic feedback, and no feedback is part of the authentic feedback. And it's very possible that their answers won't receive any upvotes or downvotes for a long time. But it does take time to curate your audience and solicit feedback from the community. So that's part of the process. And we have opportunities for students to develop a more critical attitude towards language input from, not Reddit, from Quora. And then, of course, we also have asynchronous flexible communication, and participation on Quora is relatively low stake since there's no grades. But some people may get frustrated if their answers wouldn't receive any upvotes. All right, cons. And again, because this is the internet, this is the digital wilds, we will have a lot of non-conventional expressions and non-academic language. And I would say it's not fit for language beginners. It's suits the need for intermediate and advanced language learners. And there is inappropriate content for underage students. So if it's a K-12 classroom, be critical of that. And there are, again, potential risks and conflicts with strangers outside the classroom. I have seen cases like that. It's unpredictable and it's uncontrollable. Sometimes the emotions can be really intense. So that's the pros and cons I can think of. And I want to thank you for staying with me throughout this presentation. And don't hesitate to reach out to me if you have any questions. I'm Eva. Thank you for watching my Quora for Call video.